Okay, today we're having fun with some space junk. Basically, a friend of mine knew that I'd had this version of the Friendship when I was a kid, and I've never wanted to spend the money to get it back again, but he came across a couple of real junkers that had all kinds of serious problems. In common, they're almost always going to have battery leak damage to them. And so he sent me the two junkers and tried to make one complete one out of it, which I have done here. The only thing it's actually missing would be the latch for locking the battery door down. But I thought you might want to take a peek inside one of these vintage toys while I had it apart. Basically, there's a console that sits in front of the guy right here that's been removed and used for some other project. But the guy is still there. He's all tin and they got the cool shield. And here's your mechanics. You've got a bump and go drive on the bottom, and this is the motor shaft right here, and you can kind of see the motor, maybe part of it down there and maybe a little bit of it from that angle. Anyway, this shaft up here, this motor drives two different gearboxes. This side of the gearbox that it drives is for the bump and go drive. This side of the gearbox that it drives is for this cam and for this plunger for the smoking mechanism to move the bellows. And this cam, as it rolls around, allows this arm to move, and that allows the squeaker box. This is a cardboard box with this piece of metal on it that hits this grooves on the motor and causes the screeching sound. Now when this comes around and lifts it away, see, no screech. Then the thing runs, it screeches, and then no screech, and it becomes more of a beep sound when it. And here you can see the plunger moving in and out. That's going to, right down here, that's going to work the smoking bellows. So that's what's going on motor-wise inside the thing. As far as the smoker that's in there, this was a very common smoker when I was a kid, when I'd tear my toys apart, I'd find in there. The bellows normally wouldn't be connected directly to them, but it makes a very efficient way of doing it. In fact, that little metal arm that I showed you that's going to push on the bellows, this is also a switch. See, they put a piece of metal here. They ran that wire up to the light, which is in the console up here in the front. So every time that arm comes to push on it, that would make the light blink on the front. So it's a light blinking thing. Now I've added some new smoke fluid to this old smoker. I've got a couple of penlight batteries here. And I think we can get it smoking because it was for me a second ago. Okay, I got 3 volts connected up to it. Oh yeah. It's a good smoker. Usually when these smokers quit working, it's not because the heating element in them is burned out. It's almost always because the oil, they used to just use the light grade machine oil, has dried up and gunned up and been used. So this lower reservoir in the toy would have cotton down in there, and they'd put oil in the cotton to keep it saturated. Then up near where these holes are, but on the inside, the cotton would wick up, and then the little heating element which attaches to this side and to that side goes right across the top of that piece of cotton, and it's supposed to build a wick up more oil. But through the years, that oil thickens into grease, and it no longer comes up. So you've got to put a little bit of smoke fluid, which is a light grade petroleum oil basically, or mineral oil, down in here and get it down in the wick to loosen it up. In some cases you drill a very small hole into this case and replenish the oil supply that's in here, then you can plug that hole back up with some glue. Now it's normally a paper bellows on the really old vintage stuff. After you get into the late 60s and early 70s, usually the paper bellows would have been replaced with a plastic, like plastic bag type plastic bellows. So as far as this one working, I also did one mod to it that I'd done to mine that I'd had it as a kid. This is where the smoke's going to come out when it runs. And when I was a kid, I actually added a light back there so that this would light up. I didn't have a light laying right now, so I put an LED back there so this tailpiece can light up as it's smoking. And then when it's running, you got your flashing light in the front. You got the beeping sound we just talked about. And now it's starting to smoke. And I guess the light isn't going to show up. Let me turn the lights off in here and see if that helps. It may not help much because got the window open. And let's oh yeah, you can see the difference when I turn it off. So it's kind of cool having a light in there. So I mean, other than the rust problems, battery corrosion problems here, and a little metal slider, I can't really 3D print anything to put in there to work that, because you see it when it slides back has to go up in here, and the batteries come almost all the way up to there, so you'd have to have a thin piece of metal on the inside. So I guess I could fabricate a thin piece of metal on the inside and then maybe a plastic handle on the outside. But I'm really not going to worry about it, because this is never going to be a beautiful vintage toy. I mean, it's a vintage toy, but it's never going to be beautiful again because of all the visible damage that's done up here. But none of that bothers me. It's the thrill that you get when you've found a toy that you had as a kid and it's working again. And you can have fun with it, you can play with it, and I didn't have to worry about whether it got broke or didn't work out or anything. It was a couple of junkers I could put together and make one fun toy out of it. Thanks, Stan.